Hello everybody, welcome back into the Color Gemstone Academy. My name is Paul Deasy, your instructor, and this is my YouTube channel, Paul Deasy Gemstones. As of today, we are closing in on 1,400 subscribers. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for doing so. But if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I know it says subscribe, but it's absolutely free. Doesn't cost you a dime. So I really do appreciate it. It allows me to do these videos for you. Well, this week's Q&A series is episode 12. And like all of the Q&A series, I'm looking for your questions and comments because a lot of others out there that might be too shy to ask them. I do a video answering your questions, and maybe it's going to help you out if you were too shy to ask that question. So let's begin. And the first one is actually more of a comment than a question. And this one comes from, and I may be butchering these names when I do these, but Zaphnath Phoenix from episode 8, Sleeping Beauty Turquoise. He says, "Thank you, sir. I love your lessons. All of a sudden, I fell in love with turquoise jewelry. It's like an obsession. I want to find as much information as possible about it. Your lessons have been great and very informative. Thank you so much. Wishing you and your family well." Well, you are quite welcome. And I absolutely agree with you. Turquoise happens to be an obsession of mine as well, and it can be quite addicting. When you go to the mines and you meet some of the characters behind the scenes, it gets even worse or better, depending on your point of view. So keep that thirst for knowledge about turquoise. Maybe even get to visit a mine one day, and buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. All right, now here's question number 2. Now I may only get to 3 questions today because I think my answers are going to be quite verbose on some of them because they're pretty detailed questions, and you guys are doing a great job asking the questions. This next one is from Doug J., also from episode 8, Sleeping Beauty Turquoise. I wanted to let you know that I have a Sleeping Beauty Turquoise that I received from a gentleman by the name of Larry Aruther, who owned Southwest Indian Traders in Apache Junction, Arizona. He has passed away a few years ago. He also told me that what I have is natural. My question is, who and how do I get in touch with someone to verify what I have? Okay, that's a great question. And I've had versions of this question before. How do I determine what do I have is authentic, or where does it come from? As far as, is it natural or is it stabilized? There are some simple tests, although some of them are a little bit destructive, that you can do yourself. For example, if you've been to a lot of turquoise mines, and I have, and I realize many of you probably have not, and you've dealt with a lot of rough or buying or selling of rough. Generally speaking, the turquoise that is stabilized is a little bit more dense, feels a little heavier than turquoise that has not. Because remember, turquoise has pores in it, and if you don't fill those pores, eventually oils and lotions from your skin will fill those pores. So there's a couple of simple tests that you can do. Like you can heat a needle to a very, very high temperature and press it perhaps on a back part of the stone, and if it starts to smoke, it's reacting with that resin. I was also once at the Tucson Gem Show with my friend Peter Vida, who's an expert in turquoise and many gemstones, and we were looking at some number 8 turquoise rough, and they said it's completely natural. Well, he took a flame to that. He said, you had a lighter, took a flame to it, and you could see it smoking because it was reacting with the resins and the plastics perhaps that were infused into that rough. And unfortunately, the guy selling it wasn't even aware of that. So that's one thing. Another thing that you will notice, even when you take turquoise that's completely natural and you stabilize it, it starts to deepen that color a little bit. So it's going to be a little bit darker after stabilization than it would be if it was completely natural. Of course, you'd have to know what it looked like before then. Another possible option is to go to a reputable turquoise shop. There's a couple that I can recommend, and I don't know where you live in relation to these places. One would be to visit Sunwest Silver, which is in downtown Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I have a friend there by the name of Ernie Montoya. Ernie Montoya is like the godfather of turquoise in the world. Pretty much anyone who deals in turquoise knows who Ernie Montoya is. And Ernie Montoya knows pretty much everyone in the turquoise business and where all the bodies are hidden. He's a really tremendous resource. So if he could always happen into a shop like that, he's going to be happy to probably talk to you or maybe look at your piece or give his opinion of that piece. He also happens to be probably the biggest single dealer of Native American handmade jewelry because all of those that are the Native Americans that are creating that jewelry usually pass it by him to see if he wants to carry it and sell it in his shop. Another one, perhaps possibility, would be Kingman turquoise mine, which is in Golden Valley, Arizona, just north of the town of Kingman, Arizona. And they have a storefront where they sell turquoise from their mine. And Marty Kolba or his son Josh you might happen upon them in that store, and they can give you some information. And they're really, really have high integrity. They have, in fact, they have turquoise that comes out of their mine that looks like Sleeping Beauty, but they don't sell it as Sleeping Beauty. I can tell you stories about that that would, amaze you. Finally, the most reliable way would be to have a gemological lab test your piece. So for example, they can do a full spectrum analysis and find out that it is has or has not been stabilized. As far as, and I gave a couple of options in the past, and I'll do it again. The GIA, Gemological Institute of America, you can send a stone away to them. Kind of expensive to get that done. Another one that I have done, I always call it New Mexico School of Mines, but I think it's been renamed the New Mexico School of Mining and Technology, something like that. And it's just maybe an hour's drive from Albuquerque, New Mexico. They have a wonderful museum there that you can look at a lot of different gem specimens, but they also have a full spectrum testing lab there. I don't know exactly how much they usually charge. I know I get a discount because I was introduced to Virgil, who is the geologist and gemologist there who does the analysis. So because I was introduced by somebody who does a lot of business with them, I got a discount. So I don't know how much they charge for that. But even if you get those analyses done, I have to say, take it a little bit with a grain of salt. Like for example, you might get something that says, yes, it's natural, or it might say, no, it has had some stabilization done, but they're not going to really be able to tell you where it came from. In fact, I got another question about this from somebody else, and I haven't answered that question yet. But she said something about what the GIA said on her analysis. And if they were analyzing your turquoise, they might say something like, this is a turquoise, it's natural, and it has a robin's egg blue color, which is consistent with turquoise that comes from the Sleeping Beauty mine. But they're not really going to go out and say, this is Sleeping Beauty turquoise, because they don't know. There's no way to determine that. So the best bet truly is to trust your source when you're buying it. When the Sleeping Beauty mine closed, which was June 30th of 2012, so now we're going on, what, 9 years since that mine has been closed forever. They're never going to reopen it. It has been actually reclaimed land now. When it closed, I saw more people selling Sleeping Beauty turquoise than I ever saw in my life, and I knew that a lot of it wasn't true. So even I did some business with some people that, there was a guy who had a great technology that could take a turquoise from Mexico, very close to the Sleeping Beauty mine, and they found a way to remove all of the inclusions, all of the color out there. They added a natural copper back into it, and you had something that looked exactly like Sleeping Beauty. Now, I offered that for sale when I was at Shop HQ in Minneapolis, but I explained to everybody what it was. This is not Sleeping Beauty. If it were Sleeping Beauty, it would be much more expensive than this, but if you like the look of it, and if you had this tested, it would test as genuine turquoise, but this is not anywhere near what Sleeping Beauty is. Well, I hope that answer, long-winded or not, really helps you with your question, but those are really the ways to find out what it is that you have. Okay, so our final question. on episode 12 of our Q&A series might sound similar to you than the question that I just answered, but you're going to hear an entirely different answer on this one. This is from Judy, and Judy was watching, let me see what it was, the Q&A series episode 10, and she asks, if I have a bright yellow gemstone earrings, or I have bright yellow gemstone earrings and I have no idea what they are, who should I take them to find out what the gemstones are? As I said, this question sounds very, very similar, but it's not. Rather than trying to find out, like, is your gem natural? Where did it come from? You're basically trying to find out, this is a yellow gemstone. Is it citrine? Is it topaz? Is it a yellow diamond? Could it even be one of those yellow garnets that we learned about in the last couple of weeks with those different colors of spessartine garnet? So I would not even suggest in this case that you send it away to a gemological laboratory. Now, they would certainly be able to determine what it was or what the gem is, or if it is even a gem and not something that's a simulated stone. It would probably cost you more to have somebody evaluate that stone at a gemological laboratory than it would, it may cost more to do that than the cost of whatever your jewelry is already. So my best advice here, and I don't want anyone to panic when I tell you this, my best advice here is to get to know your local jeweler or jewelers. I know for some people it's probably somewhat intimidating, and believe me, I get it. I've been there. I was not always an expert in gemstones. I didn't always write books on gemstones. When I got out of college, I had a completely different career path and had no idea anything about gemstones until I had to. I became a host on a shopping channel in 1989, and half of what we did was jewelry. So I started to immerse myself in the study of gemstones and jewelry with the Gemological Institute of America and other classes. And I used to be intimidated in jewelry stores too before I learned. You know, you go in there and they sometimes even have a door that's locked that you can't go in. They have to buzz you in. And then you're kind of looking at the jewelry. Maybe you're getting engaged. You're looking for a diamond and you look over the counter and then somebody comes up and says, can I help you? You're like, you panic. No, like they're going to sell me something I don't know about. I don't know anything about this stuff. But as I learned more and more, I found out these are great people. It's a great place, a resource, and get to know your local jeweler. And here's why I think it's really, really important to do that. Number one, they know a lot. If you remember when we did an earlier Q&A series, question and answer with my friend Tom Elliott, who's one of the few graduate jewelry gemologists, like a bench jeweler and a gemologist. Very few of them in the world. And he said one of the things you have to constantly do, find people who know something about gems, like your jeweler, and ask them questions. They're going to be happy to impart their knowledge on you. In fact, like me, they'll probably have trouble shutting up. But there's another reason that I think that it's important that you get to know your local jeweler. They will be a great resource for you. In the past, maybe 10 years or so, jewelry's become very, very tough business for the independent jeweler. You know, with the advent of shopping channels, buying in bulk and doing a lot of discounted jewelry sales, and along with the internet where everybody can go on and compare, you know, a price and the quality of gem to another place that you may be thinking about. And that's a great thing. Obviously I'm a big proponent of that. But another thing that has happened along the way is that there has been a huge spike in the value of precious metals, like gold and silver. So a lot of them will actually buy your coins, your silver coins, but you know, the United States Mint used to make silver coins for quarters and half dollars and dollars and dimes and so on, but they don't do that anymore because that costs a lot more than the face value of the coin. So if you have an old silver dollar, or I used to just find it in my change, dimes that were silver, quarters that are silver. Well, these places have found that this is a whole nother market for them. And in fact, I met a very prominent jeweler in the Tampa Bay area I was at a charity function or something. We got to talking a little bit. And he told me, and this had to be 10 years ago at least, says if it wasn't for the people bringing their gold jewelry for the melt or the silver coins, I'd be out of business. This has become a big business stream for them. And many of them will advertise, bring it in, check it out. You're under no obligation to sell it to them if you don't like what their offer is. What I did when I was getting rid of some coins and even some silver plate and jewelry and things like that, I did my homework. You go on and I say, what's the melt price of silver right now? And it was like 40 for an ounce or whatever is this much money. For a silver dollar has this much melt value. And you know exactly what to expect. And these guys were very honest and came up with a good amount of money for me. But once you have that relationship with your local jeweler, they'll know you, they'll say, hey, come on, hey, it's great to see you again. What do you got to show me today? You can always go in there and say, hey, listen, I have a piece of jewelry that was given to me by my mother, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's worth. Can you identify the stone for me or tell me if it's valuable or not? They will be happy to do it. Really free of charge, mind you, because they're hoping that maybe if you're ready to part with it, that they might be able to buy it from you and then sell it. They're going to get a markup, of course, but they deserve that markup. They're in the jewelry business. And the only thing I'm going to caution you, Judy, on, because I know it's a long way to get back to your question, get to know the jeweler, get to be friendly with them, but don't be shocked if they say, well, it's really not worth as much as you think it is. And they will be honest about that. I remember when I was taking my earlier lessons in gemology, they all talked about Granny's emerald as an example. So your mother's or your mother's mother's, had an emerald ring that's been in the family for generation after generation, and everybody thought, well, this thing must be worth a fortune. And then they go and get it appraised, and they say, well, the jeweler comes up and says, I got some bad news for you. It's really not even an emerald. It was a clear quartz that was in a closed setting, so you couldn't even see underneath it, and there's green foil behind it. It's really pretty much worthless. Now, if it has gold value, like if it's set in gold, he will tell you, oh yeah, this is worth this much for the gold. But the stone, I'll be happy to give it to you. I don't need it. I don't want it. So that's Granny's emerald story. But get to know your jeweler. They're really great people. And I hope this lesson's helped some of you decide what to do if you're not sure what to do with your silver coins or jewelry, or if you just want to have something identified and not spend a fortune to do it. Well, that's going to do it for episode 12 of the Q&A series. If you have any questions or comments, please continue to send them. I'm happy to answer them for you, and it might just help somebody else out that is in the same dilemma with the same question. Don't forget, if you haven't done so yet, please hit that subscribe button. Remember, absolutely free, doesn't cost you a penny. Every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a new Q&A series, and of course, new gem lessons are each Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time in the United States. I'll see you all next week. Have a great day, everybody.